The English task for Othello is a two-part task, and you'll see here that there's a visual planner that's worth 5%, so it'll be marked out of 5, and it's due on the Friday of week 6. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then in week 8 on the Friday, you'll come in and you'll write an essay in class. You won't be able to bring any notes in with you, but the beauty is we're giving you the question and we're going to give you lots of opportunity for ideas for help and lots of support during class time. So when you look at the task, here it is here, we've given you a little critical reading and then we've got a question underneath it. So this little critical reading from F.R. Leavis talks about an aspect of or an interpretation of the play Othello, essentially saying that Othello and Desdemona were good characters and that they really expected to live happily ever after. However, it was Iago, the external evil, the demi-devil, that turned a happy story of romantic love into a tragedy. So really it's focused on character and characterization and this notion of tragedy. And then the question says, Shakespeare's ability to examine the concept of love in Othello is why it remains relevant to modern audiences. So we're asking you to develop an argument about this notion of love, and that gives you plenty of scope to talk about a whole range of things. Obviously you'll narrow it down to one or two things that you'll focus on, but there are many things you could choose from, and you're going to explore how Shakespeare examines those aspects of love through character or theme, and then you're going to ascertain why it remains relevant to modern audiences. So what is it about the commentary on love and relationships that means that it's still relevant to us today? In doing that, it does imply that you have to be aware of the context of the 1600s and why it was valued then, and then you can make some judgments about whether it's for the same reasons that we value them today, or it might be that what they viewed in the 1600s is different today. We look at it differently, but it remains relevant. And you're going to argue the extent to which this statement is true when you consider the enduring value of Othello, why it's still relevant and it endures today. What is it about that makes it remain relevant and something that we can connect with today? And essentially that comes down to human behaviour. We know that Shakespeare wrote these plays 400 years ago, and his ability to explore human behaviour is the thing that means that it remains relevant today. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity in class and through your visual planner for you to be able to develop an argument and support that with relevant evidence from the text. Then you'll draw conclusions from that. So we know, as we said, that in week 6 on the Friday you'll submit your visual planner, and we'll have a look at that in a second. And then what you'll do is in week 8 you'll you'll come into class on the day and you'll write an essay in 40 minutes, and you'll have 5 minutes planning time at the start. Okay, so if we just go to the visual planner. So on your visual planner, we're asking you to write a thesis. What is your argument in response to this question? And we're asking you for 1 or 2 sentences. So we don't want you to jam a whole introduction in there. A thesis is different to the introduction in the sense that in your thesis you're going to introduce the main argument. So you're basically going to say the notion of love in Othello is and you're going to make a statement there, and then once you've got that, that's going to be the idea that you argue throughout your whole essay. And so it will form the ideas and the way you frame your introduction, but it's the idea that you're going to keep coming back to throughout your essay. A lot of people mistake a thesis for an introduction, but really this is the idea that you're going to consolidate throughout the whole of your essay. Now we're asking you here to come up with 2 body paragraphs, and so we're going to give you a whole range of possible directions for you to explore. One might be romantic love, for example. So the notion of romantic love in the play, and so you might then put in a little statement saying that romantic love is, and then build just a little sentence there, and that will become what you're going to talk about in your whole body paragraph. And you'll see here that we're giving you the opportunity to write your topic sentence, so we can see how that's framed. This might be, you might just put a dot point. Here you'll have a sentence. And then for each of the paragraphs, what we want you to do is you're going to show us 2 quotes that you want to use, and you're going to talk about how it relates to context or what's significant about it. You're going to evaluate its significance in relation to what you're trying to argue. So you'll do that for 2 quotes. And then what we want you to do is find 2 dramatic techniques from the play that are going to help with that. So it might be, as I said before, a monologue or a soliloquy, or it might be a term from a tragedy, so it might be hamartia or hubris or catharsis or some of those sort of terms. And it could be black and white imagery and those type of things, but we don't want you to say it's a simile. The quote may be a simile, but we want to see if you can extend and talk about theatre, the form of drama, and particularly tragedy that you can build in there. So you'll see that there are 2 boxes here for you for 2 paragraphs, and I think the majority of students will do 2. If you find you want to have a 3rd one, you can just talk to your teacher about that one. But this is an opportunity for you to seek a bit of direction from your teacher as to whether your argument's working well, and the evidence that you're going to use is going to support you in building your essay. For the marking criteria is with the visual planner, to get 5 marks, you need to really have a purposeful and skillful approach to the question, and you'll have a very sort of detailed and methodical development of the points that you're going to make. So have your thesis is going to marry up with the idea for your paragraph, and then the quotes that you choose and the dramatic techniques are all going to work well together, and it'll be apparent to the teacher that you're building a really effective argument that's going to lead to a good argument in your essay. When you look at the essay, in the in-class essay, it asks you to skillfully evaluate to what extent this statement is true. So we've got the little statement at the top of the F.R. Leavis critical statement, and how you need to use that critical reading to develop your argument to answer the question. So you don't have to use every aspect of the critical reading. What we want you to do is pick an idea from it, or 2 ideas. You wouldn't do any more than that, really. So you might focus on this notion of tragedy, how the tragedy occurs because of love. You might like to build your argument through this notion of the conflict between the characterization of the noble Moor of Othello and the cunning of Iago, so the character traits that lead to that. There are things here about fate, that it was fate that meant that they were going to, Othello and Desdemona were going to have a romantic courtship and then get married and then live happily ever after. But that led to a tragedy. So you might look at building your argument around this notion. Okay, was it the love of Othello and Desdemona that caused the tragedy, or was there an external evil? Was there malice from a devilish character, Iago, who brought them down and destroyed them? So you have to pick something from there that you're going to develop your argument around. And note that the title of the essay was Diabolical Intellect and the Noble Hero. So, this obviously is relating to the machinations of Iago. So we want to be able to get in the A range. You want to have a skillful integration of that argument into your essay, and it's going to build into your own thesis, and you're going to say to what extent you agree with F.R. Leavis in your informed personal response. That's what we get to at the next one, that you're going to demonstrate a well-informed understanding of the play, and you're going to use well-selected detailed textual references. So you're going to sustain your argument through the evidence that you use and how well you're able to develop an evaluation, so that you're going to show that the quotes you choose enable you to prove your argument through your thesis. You're also going to be able to connect your ideas to contextual concerns. So the values or the issues that were relevant in the 1600s, but also why it endures today, what makes it relevant for a modern audience. And then finally, you're going to use language appropriate to audience, purpose, and form. Okay, so your argument, it's going to be thoughtful, skillful, it's going to be well constructed, and you're going to use appropriate language, a sophisticated language to do that. So from here, the really important thing for you to do is to be planning and doing small pieces of writing regularly to really refine your argument and your essay writing skills. So that's where you're going to use your class time effectively to develop those skills, and that will lead to an excellent essay.